Hi, I'm Dr. Christine Carter, and I'm a sociologist and senior fellow at UC Berkeley's Greater Good Science Center and the author of Raising Happiness and the Sweet Spot. About 5 or 6 years ago, I thought, at the top of my game. I was the executive director of the Greater Good Science Center, and I was spending a lot of time at speaking engagements and on television shows teaching people how to lead happier and more fulfilling lives. I loved my job, but I was increasingly run down, constantly sick, and always pressed for time. Unfortunately, all my work teaching people to be happy was starting to seem a little inauthentic, given how sick and run down I was. I needed to find a way to accomplish all I wanted without working all the time. I needed a way to get off the busyness hamster wheel I felt stuck on, to truly enjoy the life that I had worked so hard to create. Fortunately, I was absolutely steeped in the science of elite performance and productivity, stress resilience, and well-being. For example, I knew that a compelling series of Harvard studies had demonstrated that 1 hour of time spent in your flow state is equal to 2 or even 3 hours of normal work. And so I consciously and deliberately road tested any tactic that had been validated scientifically that could help me find that flow state. Anything that could make me more efficient, more productive, more creative, or more intelligent. I tried out every research-based strategy that promised to give me more energy. So this e-course is the culmination of nearly a decade of work in which I've created a science-based plan for my own life as the working mother of 4. The tools in this course have allowed me to go from being busy, overwhelmed, and exhausted all the time to leading a life of creativity and real joy. The science of finding flow will help you experience greater productivity and success at work. But importantly, you'll also feel happier and a lot less stressed. You'll be able to access your own greatest intelligence. Your sleep and your health are even likely to improve. This e-course is made up of 9 units, each containing training videos, graphics, written content, and downloadable materials like worksheets. The Science of Finding Flow is available now. I hope you'll join me in what I found to be a wonderful way, to paraphrase Liz Gilbert, to know life as richly as it longs to be known, to truly know the vaulting scope of your own potential.
Are you ready? MomTalk community, welcome to today's program. Today we are here to talk to Dr. Christine Carter on the science of flow and to learn all about her latest research and her latest book, The Sweet Spot. دوستان به برنامه مامتاک خوش آمدید. در این ساعت برنامه با دوست گرامیم روما کترپال در رابطه با ارتقاء به اصطلاح صلح و آرامش و شادی در زندگی شما اینجا صحبت خواهیم کرد. در طی برنامه با این مصاحبه من اوقاتی رو استفاده می کنم و برای شما ترنسلیت خواهم کرد و به شما این چکیده علمی و به اصطلاح شناخت بهتری که امروزه ما در روانشناسی از روانشناسی صلح و آرامش و ارتقاء شادی و خوشبختی در زندگی ها هست برای شما خواهیم آورد. Dr. Christine Carter, welcome to MomTalk.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be on MomTalk.
So, Roma, dear, I know we have talked about Dr. Carter in our mom groups and her science on flow and how important it is in bringing peace learning into the families and millions of you moms who can relate to being on the hamster wheel and being, having those moments where we are feeling burned out, and especially now with the time of holidays and all the stress that we are accumulating. What a great topic to start with the expert, the one and only Dr.
And
Carter.
What I actually love is what Deepak Chopra says, and I'm going to read this.
Yeah.
He endorsed the book with this message. Mm-hmm. When you are living in your sweet spot, you feel both calm and energetic, accomplished and joyful, strong and at ease. I mean, just to be able to get into that and tap into that is amazing. It's something we all need especially at this time of the year.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And I remember, Dr. Carter, when you were at Curtis School a couple years ago, our kids' school, I remember you were able to elevate the level of consciousness and awareness as it relates to finding your sweet spot and how we can communicate that or educate our children about it. So tell us about your book, The Sweet Spot, and how it relates to peace learning and finding one's flow and bringing more peace into our lives.
Yeah, well, I see the sweet spot. For me, the sweet spot is the overlap between where we have our greatest strength and where we have our greatest ease or the least resistance, right? So it's a sports metaphor, really. I'm not really into sports, but if you think about like where a baseball player is going to hit his or her home runs, it's only within this place of great power, but also interestingly no resistance. The bat doesn't bend, split. It doesn't. There's no impact when when you watch slow motion footage of somebody hitting outside of their sweet spot, you see a lot of impact on their body, on their shoulder, their wrist, and the bat will often break or splinter.
It's also called the zone, right? They also call it the zone in sports.
Exactly. So when we bring this back to our parenting and to peace learning, really important, because in our culture we tend to focus really heavily on the strengths piece of things, right? Where we have our greatest power, where our children have their greatest power.
Right.
And we forget about the ease piece of things. We can get hits outside of our sweet spot, right? Our children will get on base, but eventually the bat will break, their shoulders will dislocate, right? That the stress really takes all the peace out of the equation. And so the good news is that we're not a bat, right? We can grow our circle of ease and where it overlaps with our greatest power. And it's not terribly hard, right? So I agree with you. This is a great time of year to really think about ease, because it is a time of year in which there is more ease available to us in many ways, but also we tend to do the opposite, right? We just raised. We feel more on the hamster wheel than ever because of all the expectations around the holidays.
I love what you say about buying some extra time where you can add a day to your week. I know it's part of one of your workshops, and we all want that, right? We all want to add that extra day to our lives, to our week, so that, again, we can get more done. But it's about finding that balance and finding that sweet spot. So, you advocate 5 ways. We'd love to hear about, and quick tips, what those 5 ways might be for us to do less in more time.
Okay.
Or to do more in less time, sorry.
Yes, yeah. Or really to think about accomplishing more while doing less.
Right.
And a lot of these things, so I should say that this is a free downloadable ebook that anybody can have. So, if they want to go to the website and get that's fine. And this is a terrific time of year to think about adding back more time.
Right.
So around the holidays, I think a lot of people will take time to actually get organized and around the new year. And so we could talk about any one of those tips or holiday related tips. You just let me know which you're most interested in, and I can take you through what some of those things would be.
I think holidays would be a great place to start with that, don't you, Nelly?
Sure.
Okay. Well, I think that one of the best things that we can do to bring more ease into our lives around the holidays is to think about prioritization. Right? So we're going to prioritize connection over the holidays. And the reason I say that this is how this brings ease, if not necessarily more time. We're a little off the ebook right now, but that's okay, because this is a really great way to think about bringing more ease into your holidays. So connection, if you look at all the sociology and psychology from the, in the history of those social sciences. And even if you look to a certain extent at anthropology and certainly more recently at neuroscience, the single strongest finding we have about overall well-being, about really that ease piece of things, is that a person's well-being or their happiness, and to a certain extent their health and longevity too, is best predicted by the breadth and the depth of their positive connections to other people. So the holidays present us with all these opportunities to connect with people, right? And I put that in air quotes because whether or not we actually do depends on whether or not they've sort of moved into that sweet spot zone. So we could just have a lot of soft touches with people over the holidays and never really feel a deep sense of connection, right? Never really let ourselves deepen our connection with people, catch up with people. We just can do lots of too many little things, right? Or over the holidays, we can say, you know what? I can't do everything, but I'm going to prioritize the things that actually do make me feel really connected to the people around me. So maybe Christmas cards or holiday cards are one of the things that makes you feel really connected getting them, so you want to send them out. Or maybe holidays cards are the thing that just make you want to stick a sharp stick in your eye, right?
We all have
that's
those
one of the
moments.
things that just throws you over the edge. But making that decision consciously and by making your litmus test connection, it is really important. So we have tons and tons of traditions. How do you decide which ones are most important to your family, which ones you're going to put effort into? You decide by how connected they make you feel to one another. And you let yourself skip everything else, right? You do not need to go to every party. You don't need to volunteer in places that leave you feeling harried. You don't have to do anything else. This is your permission to prioritize those things which genuinely make you feel more connected and to say no to everything else.
And getting your permission is so important because I tell you,
I can relate to this so much, and this being a very busy time in our family because we have birthday parties and we have a lot of events, and I've been very conscious and mindful of having these conversations with our family members as well as our children, and as a family we prioritize and we make those decisions mindfully, and it's been wonderful because you really do have more opportunities to connect.
Right.
It is really meaningful. And I think it's that golden triangle when you have a brain and mind and relationships that are connected and in the flow of that sweet spot. And the relationship and connection really makes sense and it creates more flow.
Right.
And you therefore have more energy and you have more meaning in doing things.
Right. And it's about, as Dr. Carter talks about, in this flow is where we really harness our potential. We really not only have more energy flowing through us, but also harness our potential.
Absolutely.
And I know you have so many workshops that speak to this. So what's been your most fun experience with your workshops where you feel you've brought the most value to your audience?
Oh, I love online classes. I love online classes, and half my webinars are free, but that's not. I mean, all of my webinars are free, and so you can kind of get a taste of that. And there is this sort of 5 ways to, get back your time kind of webinars that I do. But I have 2 online classes running right now. Well, actually, I have a bunch of them. And I'm excited.
You have a lot of classes.
Because, what?
I said you have a lot of classes, and I feel like that adds so much value to be able to pick and choose what suits your needs, for that particular time.
And it's great service.
Well, it enables me to take people through at their own pace, right? While at the same time, so they're all self-directed, right? But I get to still have interaction with people. So it's the best of both worlds, right? So people, when they finish a unit or if they have a question, they can put it in the comments and I can answer there, or in the Facebook group, or we have monthly calls. So I get to interact and answer questions and coach people live. At the same time, they can do because only you know what you really need to work on and where you're going to find your flow. And so that the online class format, I think, is just like the best innovation ever.
Yeah. It is. Yeah.
Thing too, right? You get to be a part of a group of people that are growing in the same way. So for your audience, there's a Raising Happiness home study where people who are building parenting skills can go and pick and choose the units that they need most. There's the flow class, which you saw. I'm having so much fun creating mini courses for people because everybody's so busy, right?
Yes.
So I just want, if what for the new year, for example, is that you would have more energy and it would bring more ease into your life and also strength if you had a regular exercise routine, please don't join a gym. Right? It doesn't work unless you know it already does, and then you don't need this class, right? But I've created a mini course around helping you understand what it takes to get in the habit of doing something, what it takes to do something that's really joyful.
And I love that you've picked, in Cracking the Habit, I love that you've picked so many different topics that are so important, that are applicable in the day-to-day to really help crack the habit, because it's usually that autopilot that throws us off track.
All right, so I'm going to take a few minutes and translate some of the highlights of our conversations and discussion, and also invite our international audience to join your classes and to subscribe and become members at christinecarter.com. دوستان، صحبتی که با دکتر کارتر در رابطه با خوشبختی و ارتقای خوشبختی در خانواده داریم میکنیم، در رابطه با صلح‌جویی و صلح‌آموزی، به این صورت هستش که به خصوص در دوران تعطیلات، در دورانی که خانواده ها، حالا در ایران اگر شما از ایران با ما هستین، تعطیلات ایام نوروز و الان خب شب یلدا و ایام تعطیلات بسیار کریسمس اینجا و یا هانوکا و یا به اصطلاح هر دوره‌ای برای خانواده ها میتونه تنش و استرس بیاره، ولی در کنارش هم میتونه توأم با شادی و خوشبختی باشه. و توصیه‌ای که دکتر کارتر میکنن این هستش که اگر شما به صورت با تمرکز حواس این پرایورتی و مطالبی رو که برای خانواده شما مهم هست در کنکشن و رابطه برقرار کردن با هم به اون توجه بدین، یعنی اگر برای شما بیشتر مهم اهمیت داره که با خانواده به اصطلاح بزرگتر یا خانواده فامیل بیشتر در رابطه باشین، با دوستانتون وقت بذارین و توجه و حواستون روی پارتی و مهمونی زیاد رفتن یا کارتای کریسمس درست کردن یا هدیه خرید کردن و به اصطلاح کارایی رو که شاید بیشتر استرس روتون بذاره تا اینکه شما رو شادابی بیاره و خوشبختی بیاره و احساس خوب بیاره. بنابراین تو ذهنتون و در رابطه با خانواده و همسرتون و بچه ها یه لیستی رو تهیه بکنین و در اون لیست به اون نکاتی رو که به شما در رابطه کمک میکنه و احساس خوشبختی میاره برای شما، اونا رو بهش انرژی بذارین و توجه بذارین و تمرکز روش بکنین و بقیه رو میتونین باهاش خداحافظی بکنین و بگین که امسال این برای من مهم نیست. برای من امسال مهم نیست که حتما کریسمس کارت درست بکنم و به 200 نفر کریسمس کارت بفرستم. امسال برای من مهمه که اوقات پر از کیفیت و تو هم با کیفیت با دوستان نزدیکم یا اون کسانی که دوست دارم باشون رابطه برقرار بکنم انجام بدم. و خانم کریستین کارتر کلاس های بسیاری دارن. خیلی از این کلاس ها به صورت رایگان هستش و شما میتونین عضو بشین، سابسکرایب بکنین، به وبسایت ایشون برین christinecarter.com و به عنوان یک ممبر، به عنوان یک به اصطلاح فردی که این کامیونیتی رو جوین میکنه یا این ترایب رو جوین میکنه، ایشون شما رو زیر بالشون میگیرن و بهتون تعلیم میدن و کمکتون میکنن که یک مادر و پدر شادابتر و خوشبختری باشین و میتونین از به اصطلاح توصیه و علومی که ایشون دارن در این رابطه، Raising Happiness و The Sweet Spot، 2 کتاب ایشون هستش که bestseller بوده و ایشون خدمات بسیاری دارن که میتونن شما رو کمک بکنن و راهنمایی بکنن. این از اون اقدامایی هست، قدمایی هست که میتونین در رابطه با پیس لرنینگ بردارین و شادابی و نشاط رو در خانواده بالا ببرین. So, what are some of your sweet spots? I'm curious as a mom because you have adult children.
Yes.
And how do you practice that?
You know, I have to tell you, for me, having Christine's book was life-changing. I followed her work, and as you know, she's endorsed my book, which was such an honor for me. But I recently started working out of the house. So that was a really tough one for me, to be able to manage my time with the constant interruptions. And, you know, either the phone ringing or the email or what have you, and really trying to keep my focus. And I think the sweet spot really helped me harness that, you know, the steps that Christine offers. And what was groundbreaking for me was just to understand focus in a completely different way. Because, you know, we don't think that you think that it's all the outside factors, but in essence, it's your internal focus that is tapping into and being pulled by all these different interruptions. So it really helped me find my sweet spot. You know, one thing in particular that I do now is I let my brain wander. And Christine, you talk about this a lot, is, you know, letting the brain wander and giving it that time. And I think I was just packing too much in a day. So, and again, I think this message speaks to all of us, because especially parents of young children, because, you know, our pinch points are so many when it comes to timing. And as Christine says, you know, we're a time-starved society. And, you know, being a time-starved society, having tips like this are so valuable for all of us in the day-to-day.
Yeah, I have to agree. And, you know, our kids are 9 and 7, so a little different stage and age of development. But I have to say, taking those moments to really reflect and be mindful of what am I putting my energy on right now? Where is my focus, like you say? And getting a sense of what that sweet spot really feels like internally, and really trying to remember it. You know, I take a moment, I pause, take a deep breath, and try to remember that feeling when the connection and the integration is spot on. It just feels so good. And I try to communicate it with our children. You know, if I notice they're having a sweet spot, I try to reflect on it and take a moment, have them pause, because oftentimes, you know, their speed of doing things is a little faster.
Of course.
And so we like specifically, intentionally slow down and talk about it, reflect. Sometimes they're ready and sometimes they're not, and that's okay. But when we do take those pauses and those moments to reflect and be mindful and breathe and really talk about the experience, it really makes a difference. And they have said to me, you know, a few times now, that they appreciate those conversations, and it helps them practice their mindfulness and get stronger in it, because it's like exercise. And I think if we make it a habit, just like brushing our teeth, that, you know, we are brushing our brains and finding the brain, mind, and connectional experience and the sweet spot, which makes I think that integration so meaningful. And the kids get it. The kids really get
Especially
it. Even
with
at
technology,
7.
I feel like, you know, there are so many distractions when it comes to this, you know, crazy world that we live in right now. And Christine talks about it beautifully. She talks about how you can actually use technology to boost your energy instead of sap your energy. So, Christine, for the holidays, what are your tips on, you know, guiding kids through that?
Well, I think, Dr. Nelly, you've just hit on something that I'd like to slow down and just hit on again, because it's really important, and I don't think that we often teach our kids this deliberately or let ourselves do it. And that is the way the sweet spot feels in our body, right? It feels like freedom.
Yes.
It feels like
Yes.
expansive energy. You people, if you slow down and ask yourself or ask your kids, you get this kind of body language, right? That people feel like they're expanding. And when it's really important to be able to recognize how, when we're doing something that's outside of our sweet spot, feels in our body too, right? That sense of dread, right?
Yeah.
That requires,
Because then you have a parallel to come back to.
Right. So and to understand that, like, when first we feel this sort of contraction and this sense of dread, we feel ourselves getting heavier and tired, or, it's unique to each person, but we need to be able to know what that is, give it a name, and then realize, wow, anything that we have to force ourselves through that feeling to do is probably not something to do, right? So bringing it back to the holidays, when we feel that sense of like dread, giving ourselves permission to say no, right? To know that that's not the right thing for you, and to stay in integrity to yourself, to keep that feeling of freedom, to not feel like you're just hamster wheeling it all the time, which is very unfulfilling. We need to stay in integrity to ourselves, right?
But Dr. Carter, you also talk about how, our brain goes on autopilot when it comes to habits, and that we just go from one task to another.
Yes.
And I love that you say that, we have our habits lead the way, something similar to this, when our willpower should be shouldering this disconnect that we're having. So how do we actually take ourselves, put ourselves out of that habit and start to create, connection habits?
Oh yeah. So the really good news here is that our habits it's just like writing code in our brain, right?
Yeah.
We understand the neuroscience behind how to get into habits. And so habits are a beautiful thing. It's almost the reverse, right? We expect our willpower to shoulder all of these things, right? Like getting ourselves to meditate and exercise and eat well and all the things that we want to do in the new year, right? And also with our children, right? Like it takes so much effort for us to get them just like from dinner time to bed, depending on their age, right? But like we have all these things that actually, that's a bedtime routine. It could happen completely on autopilot if we just knew how to create the habits, which we knew. We know how to create these habits. You just have
good
to
and bad, both.
What?
I say good habits and bad habits, right? We know how to create both.
So all bad habits need to be replaced with in this sort of intentionally good habit created. So if you have a bad habit, it's not enough to just will yourself away from it, because it gets hardwired in a part of your brain, and this sounds really scary, but it's true that it's there forever. Once you establish a habit, the neural wiring is there forever.
Right.
And so you need to wire in a new habit that sort of overtakes the old one. So the good news is that once you have a good habit in place, the wiring is always there. A habit is established by having something that anchors it. Like if you're going to brush your teeth, for example, it could be the decision to get ready for bed, or the time of day, or just pulling your toothbrush out of the medicine cabinet or something. And then the actual behavior, which is brushing your teeth and maybe flossing. And I've added a whole long list of healthy behaviors to just the simple anchor of pulling my toothbrush out, brushing my teeth, which started as an existing habit. And then there has to be a reward built in. So we tend to reward ourselves completely wrong, right? We're like, all right, if I floss and we reward our kids wrong too, right? We say, if you floss every day for a week, I'll take you to Chuck E. Cheese or whatever they want, right? And that does not work in terms of your brain wiring, right? The reward has to be built into the actual habit or happen right on the heels of finishing it. And then you get a nice little hit of dopamine, which activates the reward center in your brain. Your brain makes a little note to self, like, oh, let's do that again, right? And after a few weeks, it's just becomes a part of your neural wiring, the part of the way your brain works. It happens outside of your conscious control. This is a beautiful thing. When you see your children put their shoes away without you asking them to do it, this creates great peace for parents, right? Sure. And great ease in our lives. There is very little that is as easy as a habit once it's established. And if you choose the right habits, they're also an incredible source of power.
Right. And I've noticed, Dr. Carter, the sweet spot many times in our family is around honoring the children's individualities, their temperaments, their tendencies, and those intrinsic motivations, and really to practice conscious parenting in a way that, as parents, my husband and I, we can find that sweet spot in the space between the two, whether it's two souls or two beings, and allowing for them to interact, encounter natural consequences, as well as just listening to conversations that are heartfelt and more, peace learning geared. And
Yes.
and that requires letting go of some of our own habits, or some of our own conditioning, some of our own sort of baggages and relationships from the past, and perhaps the disconnects we've had from past relationships. And so constantly I find myself evolving in the relationship and learning more about myself, becoming more aware to find the sweet spot, not just for me intra-psychically, but also finding that sweet spot interpersonally with each individual child.
Yes.
And it's an effort, but when I'm in the flow, it's beautiful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you're speaking to something that is so very important, because, people come to me and they want a one-size-fits-all kind of a approach to things. And it is really important. Everything that you just said is really important, particularly where it comes to, how we motivate our children, right? We motivate them through threats, through bribes, through punishments. A lot of even our most popular parenting, I should say, it tends to be very punitive, right? Like, if you do that, then you'll lose all these privileges or whatever. And while that works really well in the short term, and I don't believe that children should be able to, I'm a big fan of structure and discipline, let's just put it that way. But discipline meaning learning, right? And that when we start to motivate kids through extrinsic or external rewards or punishments, we break that intrinsic motivation, what their soul wants, what's in integrity for them, what creates those feelings of freedom and expansion for them. So, and then it doesn't matter what kind of individualized approach we're taking with our children, because they won't even be in touch with their intrinsic motivation. It breaks very easily. It can also be fixed very easily, right? Like just by tuning into them, asking them what creates those feelings of freedom, for better lack of, we're just sort of using that as a handle. Kids think of it as happiness too, right? Like what makes them feel light, what makes them feel happy. They know.
Yeah, and I can relate with the brushing your teeth example with our 3 children. Our son was just born with really strong executive function skills, and he's very regulated, very regular. Just from birth, he was that way. His brain has been wired that way. And so every night at the right time, a few minutes before 8, he goes to his bathroom and he takes out his toothbrush and he brushes his teeth, and he's very proud, and he, comes and shows me his good work and is proud of his work. So that's just him, his nature.
Right.
And with our older daughter, she is creative. She has a big imagination. So now she's found this app that she uses to brush her teeth, and she can collect, princess icons, and but it takes a long time for her. And sometimes she doesn't get to it because she's more interested in reading or doing something else that she's doing, or creating a craft. So every child has a different sort of way that they approach the world in those habits and routines. Sometimes she misses, the opportunity of brushing her teeth. And I have to say, after reminding her a couple of times and having those gentle reminders, I said, okay, well, this is something that you're going to have to learn. And it's going to be between you and your dentist, and a conversation that you're going to have, and we can just keep an eye on it and we can talk about it, but I'm not on it as much because it just feels like she needs to learn that lesson through a more natural consequences. And it's hard because as a parent, we want to protect them. We want to make sure that they have really healthy teeth, good hygiene.
Of course.
And so it is challenging at times when
it's
to
hard
push.
because we want to, oops, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's hard because we want to control them.
Right.
Yes.
Like we want everything to be perfect for them. We don't want them to have the pain or discomfort of ever having a cavity.
Right.
And so, and so it's very hard to let them learn lessons the hard way.
And I
but
think this is
that's the best way to do it. For her to have a conversation with her dentist in which she finally understands the importance of it,
Right.
and it is going to be the most important thing. And you know what? There might be a cavity involved, right? That hits that kind of home. Sometimes kids have to make mistakes in order to learn something that they just can't learn any other way. And that's not a failing of the parent, right? If anything, the parent is there to create the structures so that they can learn from their mistakes.
Right.
Right? It's not about never making mistakes. It's about
learning
responding to mistakes with compassion and self-compassion, and then learning, because that frees up your brain to be able to learn.
Right.
But your son, it's really interesting because your son has hit on what's rewarding for him. He has pride, pride of workmanship in his teeth brushing. Really important, right? He comes in, he shows you he's proud of it, he feels accomplished. That's all it takes. Feelings of accomplishment, much better reward than holding a trip to Disneyland out or whatever the things that we do, right? That sort of intrinsic feeling. Your daughter, with the app, has found another way to feed her reward system. And all she needs is a little help understanding the anchor piece of things. What's going to trigger the bedtime routine? Because she's involved in something else. So, maybe that needs to be an alarm.
Yeah. And I think this, circling back to the sweet spot, Dr. Carter, this is why it's so important for parents to know their sweet spot, to be really familiar with it, because we're pulled in different directions with different children.
Right.
And if at the same time we're triggered in different ways, then we need to be empowered to really take that step back and self-regulate and do what we need to do. And if we don't know what that feels like, if we don't know what that feels like for us within ourselves to be in that state of connection, then this is where we lose out, and this is where our children lose out as well.
That's right. And it's complicated because I have to say, I'm reading Dan Siegel's latest Mind, and so he talks about the me space, the me and we space, and interpersonally, I'm constantly having to sort of remind myself or be mindful of, so the sweet spot for me, the sweet spot for we, and the sweet spot for me. And, it's taking some time to to really grind and understand it mindfully, but it's getting there, and it feels really good. I think once one is able to differentiate and make those linkages, the integration is so rewarding. It's so meaningful. That,
it's about wiring our brains if
yeah.
we're able to make those connections repeatedly. You know, once we make those connections repeatedly, then they become habits and, become more natural.
Like with our son, Cyrus, with our daughter Cami, and with Chloe individually, and in the context of Mui as a family, all five of us, between me and my husband. So it really is
flexible
complex.
we have to be as human beings, right? To be able to tap into all of this, and this is one you, and you're stretching yourself. So we really have to know ourselves so that we're able to stretch ourselves.
That's right.
Which I think is such an important thing. And so, Dr. Carter, you talk about gratitude. Gratitude being one of the most effective happiness boosters. And yet, we're in this holiday season. We are doing so many things to express our gratitude. As you said before, whether it's cards or gifts or presents or notes or hosting dinners or whatever it might be, one would assume with all of these gratitude actions, if you will, that we're happier. And yet, on the flip side, we are so busy doing things that we're sort of these grateful, unhappy people, if you will, during the holidays. So where's that? I mean, this is an oxymoron, right? We're being grateful, we'll get that happiness boost from it, and yet we're doing so much that we're unhappy because of it. Yeah. So where's the balance there?
Yeah, right. Well, so it is an interesting time of year because it is a time of year that, like you say, is theoretically filled with gratitude, and there are many opportunities for gratitude. It is also a time of year that is filled with entitlement, right? Yeah. So we feel, and especially for kids, right? Like never do we see our kids as ungrateful as at this time of year, I think, actually, ironically, because, the abundance that we live in creates an incredible paradox. And there's what I think of as an abundance paradox, and that is that gratitude is one of those emotions that arises really naturally in conditions of scarcity. So if you don't have enough to eat, for example, or you're not getting any holiday presents at all, you're going to be really grateful to get one small thing that you didn't want, or to have any yucky old thing to eat that you won't even think of it as yucky, right? It could be just anything to eat. You will feel grateful for it, right? But in conditions of abundance, gratitude needs to be cultivated really consciously. So when you're not in a situation where there's scarcity, the human condition makes it such that you are much more likely to feel frustrated or entitled or disappointed when you don't get what you want, rather than grateful when you do. Right? So the scales really tip towards frustration and disappointment and entitlement. Those do not make us happy, right? Entitlement is about one of the least happy ways, most frustrating places that we can be. So we don't do this by depriving our children of food, right? Or gifts or whatever. We don't create scarcity, but we can expose our kids to scarcity, right? Other people's scarcity. At this time of year, there's a lot of opportunities here. So so this weekend, the kids and I are going out and we give out backpacks to homeless people. People who we see in our everyday lives. We live in a city and we see these people, we almost know them by, face, and to have an opportunity to talk to them and to show them what's in the backpack, right? So we put ponchos and blankets and lots of different food items in it, and water and note cards and notepads and things like that. And we put Starbucks gift cards, because in our area, Starbucks is very generous about letting people who are homeless camp out during the day, right? Like they can get a warm cup of coffee and use the restroom and stuff. So to have the kids bring them the backpack and then show them all the items that are in it, they are exposed to this incredible gratitude, right? And for different people, the different items make a difference. And so, like the first backpack that we gave out, the last time we did it was to a very young woman, and the first thing she did was take out the yellow legal pad and the pen, and she said, "I've been dying to write a letter to my family." You know, and so she wrote a letter and then gave it to us, and we mailed it for her, right? So, you know, the kids were like, "Wow, Mom," right? Who knew that was something? And so the exposing kids to other people's scarcity, right? Like, and just like the food in there, right? The little individual things of beef jerky. Kids never look at the meal that they have after they give out a backpack or work at St. Vincent's, just handing out food, the same, right? There is no complaining that there is nothing that they like at Aunt Judy's house, right? Like it is full on gratitude for the abundance.
That's beautiful, Dr. Carter. I'm going to take a minute to translate. خانم کریستین کاردر در رابطه با ایام تعطیلات و اینکه چگونه میتوانیم بچه هامون رو بهشون آگاهی بیشتر بدیم در رابطه با کارهای خیریه انجام دادن و با مهر و محبت کار کردن در این دوران، و ایشون گفتن که کاری که میکنن با بچه هاشون این هستش که یه سری بکپک هایی هست که این بکپک ها رو پر پتو، غذا و کارهایی که کمک میکنه بچه ها وقتی که این بکپک ها رو میبرن و به کسانی که خونه ندارن یا هوملس هستن یا نیاز دارن، نیازمند هستن، این بکپک ها رو میدن، این کیفای کوله پشتی ها رو دونه دونه این چیزایی که توش هستش رو بهشون هدیه میدن، درباره‌اش صحبت میکنن و بچه ها میتونن چشم به چشم و دل به دل اون رابطه رو برقرار بکنن با اون کسانی که نیازمند هستن و احتیاج به کمک دارن. و این از اون کارهایی هستش که ایشون توصیه میکنن در رابطه با gratitude و ارتقاء اون احساسات به اصطلاح کار خیر کردن. اون کارا رو حتما توجه بذاریم روش، به خصوص در این ایام به اصطلاح عید یا ایام کریسمس و holidays. Dr. Carter, it was such an honor, such a pleasure to have you on MomTalk, and we really, really appreciate your wisdom and sharing your knowledge and the science of finding your flow and your latest, the sweet spot. We highly recommend Dr. Carter's book to you. It's a great gift for the holidays. Maybe this can be one of those mommy items, mommy gifts that you can share, and
yeah, we all need this.
And we all need it, right? We can all use a little flow and a little joy and a little more happiness in our daily lives.
Yeah.
Roma, thank you so much for being here and having this program. I think when it comes to peace learning and finding mindfulness and ways to connect meaningfully, it is such a beautiful thing that during these holidays I consider a pure blessing.
Yes,
and
so true.
Having you here is a blessing.
Thank you so much.
And to all you who are watching, we wish you a happy holidays.
Yes.
Find your flow, find your sweet spot, and stay peaceful. Bye.
Bye. Happy holidays.